Well, when I last left you, this was completed. What I'm going to do next is come in and put some jumps, little short jumps to help keep the car from rolling backwards. I had a number of spots here where I put the spine on the back on both of these that I had to use the Dremel tool because just the very tip of the screw stuck out. And again, I want stuff below the surface, not above it. So what I did is I took my bandsaw and I cut little tiny squares or rectangles off the 2-inch piece, and then I cut them diagonally. And those are going to get glued down at intervals all along in here. That'll be the basis of scoring. So the ramp, the car will come up and go up sequentially. With any luck, not roll back down the hill and save his progress. So I'm going to get to fitting and cutting these in here. My little step jumps are in place. Look pretty decent. That one's a little thick on the edge. Most of them, after they get dry or glued down and dried, I'll come over and feather the edges with some sandpaper. And then I'll put a final coating on them to make them tough. Well, I'll go outside and cut my side rails now. So, I glued my strips down, which were triangles, and then I've used a carpet knife, literally just the blade in my hand, and slowly shaped them to give them a little bit more lighter contour, shall we say. I still want enough of a lip to get them caught, but I don't want them to be jumps because they'll never make a series of jumps all the way through. Then I use my scrap up here to just fill it out for visual texture. But this is the back side of them. Side. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to coat these all and the board itself with Elmer's school glue. I like Elmer's school glue because at this point I can use the school glue, get it to soak into the wood good and get it smooth. But if I got a big goober of some sort, all it takes is a little bit of water and I can break up the glue and repair whatever is messed up. And it shouldn't break up it shouldn't separate the tight bond glue, wood glue. This is little strips that I cut off of the edges of all of that. And I'm going to get some coating on it next. I like to use that stuff as a sealer. The other nice thing about using the school glue is that when I go to put any kind of texture down on it, water will cause that to loosen up, so will another layer of glue, and so the bonding that takes place turns out really, really well. Your first coat, I'll lightly spritz the board and then paint it with the school glue, every bit, even the foam, and try to get it all locked in and in place. All right, good morning. This is where it gets fun. I've taken and gone out to the shop and took some of the scrap, cut it into fairly uniform strips. They're probably about 2 foot long, and now I've slowly cut them and got them close fitted, and that's what we're going to shape for the edge of the track. So the plan is I'm going to use my trusty wood glue. I'm going to go along the inside edge here with it and stay towards the inside half of that. Then I'll put the piece on, line it up, and then I will use my trusty hot glue gun, and I will poke the tip in the back and give it a squeeze just to inject glue and hold it there. That'll hold it in place without moving. While the wood glue then dries, it'll give it a lot more strength than when it's secured. We'll do the same thing for each piece. I will keep very little of the hot glue. I will try to keep it out of the seams right here, because wherever that stuff is, the wood glue doesn't stick very well, and if you get it too close to the top, you'll start losing your coating with your scenery stuff, because it won't be stuck to the substrate. But that's what we're going to do. I'm going to get a look down the hill now with it. These are all coated with wood glue, or with school glue. They're significantly stiffer now. And what else? Oh, I had these spots right here where I found that the screws had stuck up, so I took the Dremel tool and knocked the top off of them. And I also put a thick coat of the school glue down in those holes. Try to help seal them. Oh, time to fire up the hot glue gun. Well, the strips are glued down, and I have gone over the top of every seam with a shot of wood glue. That's going to slowly ease its way down in there. I'll come back in about 10 minutes and spritz it with some water and wash the top, and it'll get itself down into there, and it'll be stabilized enough to go for the first round of trimming. So the glue is dry, the wood glue, including the stuff that I ran into the seams. I went around the edges of it with a razor blade and just cut a 45, and then just keep whittling it down just enough to kind of break the edge, give it a little natural randomness to it. And I'm fixing to put some paint on it. So got this paint right here. I've added it was this much paint. I've added about this much water and then filled it the rest of the way up with wood glue. So about here, about there for water, and the rest is wood glue. And that's what I'm going to use to paint it over. It's a little thin because I want it to just soak in, and that. I will not spray any spritzer on it because that'll melt the school glue that's already on there. But when I lay that part flat and paint it, that will loosen up the school glue and it'll soak down in even better. Hopefully filling little spaces like this definitely will make the board a lot smoother for the car to run down. Next phase. Third of the way there. Let this cure, and then I'll stand it up with the other part flat. Well, here it is, all coated. Still drying. All the flat wood surfaces, I managed to get around 4 coats on it. You can see I got spots that are raising up a little bit, but those aren't a big deal. We'll come back and touch those things up. Tomorrow I'm going to buy some, I need to run to the hardware store, and it's going to get a coating of waterproof exterior latex brown, because everything's all could be ruined with just getting wet, and this thing's got to be able to do outside time. It's going to get another coat now, but the glue and paint coating, just keep mopping it into the corners, all of that. It could really use another coat or two, which I'll probably give it, but I want to stabilize it every time, because it's 4 layers of that. If I come back with another layer, it starts dissolving it again. So you got to go in and stabilize it, which is what I'm going to pick up some paint to do tomorrow. So see how it looks. Looking up the hill at the dehumidifier. So here it is. Probably about a dozen layers of paint on it right now, and feathered all in on the edges. Preliminary tests indicate it works excellent.